Hi, all. Welcome to a special episode of Crown and Conflict. I'm Kinsey Schofield, and today we're joined by a man who doesn't just report the gossip, he lived it. A true New York insider, a tabloid assassin, a storyteller who was actually in the room when legends were being made. Please welcome the host of the Fame is a Bitch podcast, AJ Benza. The podcast is described as deconstructing some of the biggest scandals and tragedies of our lifetime. And I'd say the loss of JFK Jr., Carolyn, and Lauren Bissett falls under that category. AJ was a friend of John F. Kennedy Jr. during the electric, ambitious era when he was launching George. And while the magazine was meant to fuse politics and celebrity in a way no one had done before, there was one cover concept that would have detonated the culture: Princess Diana. In 1995, at the height of her global power and post separation mystique, John arranged a secret meeting with Diana at the Carlyle. Not a casual drop by, not a polite handshake, a strategic, carefully orchestrated sit down about potentially appearing in George, on the cover. The plan reportedly involved walking through the front entrance to outsmart the paparazzi who were stalking out the back, bold, cinematic, very on brand for two of the most photographed people on earth. But what really happened in that room? Was it strictly business? Was there chemistry? How serious was John about landing Diana? And what did he say privately about her afterwards? AJ knew him. AJ was there in that era. And today we are pulling back the velvet curtain on one of the most fascinating, almost collaborations of the 1990s. Camelot meets The Crown. Let's get into it. AJ Benza, what a privilege it is to get to finally talk to you in real life. I feel like I know you. I've watched you on TV. You've done all of these incredible shows. You're so good at setting the stage. You're such a great storyteller. And you've got
Thank
Fame
you.
is a Bitch, your
Yes.
podcast. So
Yes.
I was curious to talk to you about your relationship with John F. Kennedy Jr. I mean, incredible. Set the scene for me. Where are you working and how does your life intersect with John's?
Well, it was a great time in my life because I was always a fan of his and what he went through as a kid, etc. And I was very close to a girl named Rosemary Terenzio, who was in PR. Tough chick from the Bronx. I'm from Brooklyn. We got along great. She had other clients that I'd write about in my column. And at one point, she was offered the job to be an executive assistant for John Kennedy Jr. And she called me breathless. I'm like, how do you say no? Because he kept visiting the office where Matt Berman worked. My friend Ro was doing PR for Matt Berman, who started George with John Jr. So she couldn't believe it. She was just, as you can imagine, a chick who's going to work underneath John and follow him, travel with him. She was out of her mind. And every day we talk, and she was falling deeper and deeper into her love for him. And then I began to go visit her at the office because he began to date Carolyn. And Rosemary told me, Carolyn thinks you're hysterical. She watches the gossip show on E. She's a big fan of yours. Would you mind saying something to her? I said, no, of course I wouldn't mind. Now, I didn't really know much about Carolyn Bessette at this point. We knew she worked for Calvin Klein. She was a pretty blonde. And we had a little chat on the phone and very sweet girl. And then I started to write for George magazine. I'd been out with John. If you're a New Yorker and had the position I had as a gossip columnist, we ran in the same circles to a degree. So I saw him a lot. And I said in my book years ago that walking into a nightclub with John Kennedy Jr. was like walking into heaven with God. I mean, everything stopped. I'm surprised the music still played. Everything stopped. But John didn't really care. He was just above the fray. I guess was so used to it. But we got close because of Roe, and then I started writing for George. And I know a lot about, I wrote two or three articles for George, but I knew about, maybe I'm getting ahead of myself, but I knew about their wedding on Cumberland Island the night before it happened, which also has to do with the George magazine photo shoot. I know that John met Princess Diana hoping she'd be on the cover of George dressed as George Washington.
Yeah.
And at that point in her life, with the divorce with Charles going through and John was dating Carolyn, she just felt that wasn't the right time. So she didn't do it.
Yeah.
But being with John back then, I'm out one night on a Saturday or a Friday night with Jack Nicholson, Ashley Judd, and one of my buddies.
Wow.
And Jack was in rare form, and I've known him for years. And he said, I said, what are you in town for? He said, the kid's getting married over on off Georgia. Well, he got me down here to shoot the cover of George, but now he's not here. He's over there getting married. He's giving me everything. Nobody ever, no one knew what was going on with George, with John and no one knew. And I'm going, really? What? George, off the coast of Georgia? Yeah. So I run to the phone. I call Rosemary, who was a great friend of mine. I said, listen, I know everything. AJ, just stop it. I said, Ro, I know they get married tomorrow, Cumberland Island. AJ, you're wrong. Ro, shut up. I just want them to know that I know, and I'm not going to run to the paper and print it. I
Yeah.
want them to have a great wedding and a good time. Let them know I know. AJ, you're wrong. Hangs up on me. Of course, I was right. And John was very happy that I did that and afforded him the one day of sanity. And then we got close, and I began to write for him. And I found with John, it was always best to treat him like a regular guy. He didn't want to be treated like this fantastically famous, wealthy person from a family that, probably the biggest, most popular stories in American culture is the Kennedy family.
Hmm.
And I would say things to him that left him off guard. Like, I'm sorry, I'm talking a lot. Is that okay? I talk
No,
a
I
lot.
love it. I love
All
it.
right,
Keep
okay,
talking.
okay. Um, I remember when Jackie O died, his mom died. And I used to hang out with photographers who were trying to get a shot of his mom. We hid out in dumpsters. I wrote stories about paparazzi who would just stalk, hide in garbage, horrible stuff. And, John was used to that his whole life. It didn't bug him. He knew what was going on. He grew up in that spotlight. It didn't really, John had like horse blinders on. He only saw forward. He really didn't care about what was around him because he was used to it. But from an outsider looking in, you could tell it was just destroying Carolyn. She
Mm.
was promised once we're married, it's going to be fine. But I know the city. I live there. I know where they lived on North Moore Street. There's no doorman. Those screen doors open up and you're on the street and the paparazzi don't stop.
Yeah.
So that's something she could never get over. But John didn't feel that way. So when Jackie O died, they had like this big estate sale. They were selling all of her jewelry, some jewelry, clothes, hats, all that crap. At the same time, I hadn't been paid. I was owed $3,000 on an article for George, and I wasn't paid. I made enough money not to worry, but one day I said, "Hey, John, not for nothing, but I still haven't gotten paid for that article." You're kidding me? I said, "No." He goes, "Oh God, all right, let me." He goes, "Do you need the money?" I go, "Well, I didn't sell my mother's clothes in a garage sale and make $6 million last week, so yeah, I could use the money." He laughed so hard. But that he liked that. He liked people kind of putting him in his place. And another time we had breakfast, me and an ex-girlfriend and him and Carol, and we get to the Moon Dance Diner. It was raining out. This is right after their wedding, and he knew I kept it a secret. And I had the Post and the News on me. He had the Wall Street Journal and the New York Times. First thing he says is, "What's in the Post and the News?" I go, "You're not in it. I checked already. Your name, they didn't talk about you at all this weekend. Can you believe it? No one gives a shit, John. You're just a regular." He would laugh. I bought him shoes. I went to his office and had these light sky blue suede shoes with a silver buckle. He goes, "Damn, those are so great." I said, "Get them." "No, I can't get away with wearing those." I said, "John, I'm wearing them with ripped jeans." Because they'll never let me do that. So I went and bought him a pair. And then like a month later, "Hey, no one cares. I'm wearing these shoes." I said, "I know." He was like very sure of himself, but then also very unsure of himself. So the meeting with Princess Diana, which is kind of famous, you try to think of two more famous people meeting without the public knowing. I can't imagine if there's two people that are more famous who did that, but they met for her to be on the cover of George, and it wasn't the right time for her. But people have taken that meeting and decided to think all sorts of things. Was there an affair? Did they mess around? I personally don't think they did.
Yeah.
What's your feelings?
I
about
don't
that.
think they did, but that's a great segue. So yes, because I have some your friend Rosemary, she
Yeah.
writes about this in her book. So
Yeah.
Kennedy's team pursued Diana for their debut issue, which we're seeing now all over the place thanks to Ryan Murphy's love story.
I
And they
know.
wanted Diana to be George Washington. And
Yeah.
it was exactly the kind of cultural collision Kennedy was betting on. Monarchy meets American democracy,
Of
celebrity
course.
fused with civic,
No, it's great.
mythology. And at that point, like you said, Diana was separated from Prince Charles. She was
Right.
kind of redefining her public identity, and arguably the most photographed woman in the world, probably
Oh
Carolyn,
yeah.
probably number two.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. You have to figure, and the problem with there was a lot of problems with Carolyn, not because she's not a great person. She was. I don't think she knew what she was getting into with respect to paparazzi and always being surveilled and followed. It
Mm-hmm.
didn't bother Jackie O. It didn't bother John. There comes a point in your life if you're really famous enough or popular enough that you can control that level of them taking. You can talk to the paparazzi. Look, I'll give you one picture. Let me spend the rest of the day. Yeah, you could talk to them.
Which is
But
what the
that's
Royals would do, by the way. They'd say, you can snap us at noon, but you're going to leave us alone for the rest of the day. We're going to give you
right.
exactly what you want, but go away
Yeah.
after that.
Yeah. I never understand why famous people just don't let them get the shot and then move on with their day. The more you argue, that creates a better shot. Now you're aggravated on film, and that's going to be a different story for the gossip page. Just let them take the picture,
Mm-hmm.
smile and walk away. But I mean, we all have our bad days. And at the end of their relationship, Carolyn and John, there's cheating allegations. He was staying at the Stanhope Hotel uptown, and she was maybe messing around with Michael Bergen, her ex, and maybe John had some flings too. It got really sloppy at the end, and that's why when I watched some of the moments of the FX show, and also this Hulu documentary that I'm on that we did it for ABC several years ago. You see these situations that they're in, and you know John could handle the big fame, and Princess Diana was great at handling it. But a girl like Carolyn didn't know what she was up against, and that was ultimately the end of their relationship before the plane crash. It
Wow.
wasn't going well. Wasn't going
Wow.
well.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's really interesting to hear. Hi, guys. I have to tell you about a total game changer, Peak's Liver Detox Protocol. You may not know it, but your liver handles a lot: energy, hormones, digestion, and even your mood. But with all the stress and toxins from everyday life, it needs some love. Forget harsh cleanses. Peak delivers gentle, daily support inspired by traditional Chinese medicine. Their routine uses two simple blends. The first is a warming turmeric mix with cinnamon and black pepper, designed to help the body absorb it better and support the liver while calming inflammation. The second is a ginger and cinnamon blend that helps with blood flow, digestion, bloating, and immune support. The magic is how they work together to activate and flush for better digestion, stable energy, less brain fog, and that light, clear feeling. My energy is consistent now, skin is clearer, and less bloating. Redefine your standard of health, secure 20% off your order, and begin your intentional wellness journey today at peaklife.com/Kinsey. That's PIQUE life.com/Kinsey. Well, I feel like I should dive deeper into that, but I don't want to lose Rosemary's sweet story. So
Well, I
she
got
writes.
more about Rosemary too. Yeah.
Okay, let's do it. So she says
Well,
in
I
her.
tell you. Okay, go ahead. Say she.
Oh,
No,
okay.
go ahead. Go ahead.
She says in her book, this is about JFK Jr. meeting Diana. I remember him saying, "There's no way someone is not going to leak it. There's going to be paparazzi everywhere." Someone suggested he go in disguise, and I said, "That's ridiculous. You're
Yeah.
not doing that."
Right.
So
Right.
he reached out to Diana, asked if he could meet her while she was in New York for a charity stop. After word got out about their hour and a half long meeting at the Carlyle in her hotel room, you're
Yeah.
exactly right. Rumors of an affair ignited. By the
Of
way,
course.
like those are the rumors I want in my
Of
life. Okay.
course, it's that's so fun that rumors. Listen, I remember when I was writing my column, I got very close to Nancy Sinatra.
Oh, oh,
Whenever I did, I'm still close with her, which is crazy because my family with Sinatra, an Italian family, there were pictures of him in our home. So for me to be friends with her and then meet him, it was insane. But
yeah.
you know,
You manifested that.
I did. I really did. When I was a columnist for some reason I got in good. I wrote for Playboy quite a bit, so whenever somebody was coming to New York who was a centerfold or a celebrity centerfold, they saw me first, then Howard Stern, and we got the better stories. And it was a different era back then. And obviously, if you got John and Diana in a room together for 90 minutes, of course, people are going to think what went on. I personally don't feel anything beyond flirting went on. Diana was a really strong woman, not to mention she was in love, not only by Dodi Fayed is one thing, but there was another guy. His name escapes me. I believe
Has
he
that
was
con?
yeah,
Hmm.
that was really the love of her life for a
I
while.
agree. I agree.
And it didn't work out. But, Diana found herself in a particular kind of hell that she was really orchestrating herself out of in a very great way, classy way. But having been around many celebrities dealing with fame, I never saw anybody deal with it better than Diana, who would take the bull by the horns, and John, who never let the horns feel like they hurt him.
No,
Initially,
what,
when
but
he,
so AJ, that's such a great point. These are two people that knew how to play the game.
yeah,
And it's in my understanding, I think Rose actually says this in her book, that John wanted to do a very respectful piece about Diana. And she wrote a note saying, thank you so much, but not right now. What, that would have been such a great collaboration.
oh,
Why?
I don't think Diana liked to do things. At that point in her life, I think she needed to call the shots more. And as great as she was with playing the press, I don't know. I mean, if you ask a lot of people before George Magazine started to roll, people thought it was a stupid idea. And you look
Really?
and you look, oh, who's going to read about politics? Look at all we have now online, whether it's Politico or The Atlantic or this so Daily Beast. John was so ahead of the curve of creating a magazine that dealt with celebrity politics that, you know, it's safe to say many times when someone comes up with a great idea, it's not recognized as great when you have so many dissenters in the same room. Eventually, you realize, well, that was really all those magazines and internet sites now wouldn't be around if John didn't take the chance with George and put Cindy Crawford, all these people on the cover, Julia Roberts. That's a great
Mm-hmm.
gimmick, and I always hold this dear if John and Carolyn's plane doesn't go down, he runs. There's no Hillary Clinton's out of the equation. John becomes who Hillary Clinton became, and John eventually runs for president, and no one's beating him.
Mm-mm.
Nobody. You
Mm-mm.
know what I mean?
But what if
I'm
would Carolyn have been by his side by then?
No. If she
Mm.
can't handle walking out to the street in Tribeca, she couldn't handle the White House and the scrutiny. When Diana was at her peak, of popularity, I was leaving gossip, and when she died during that car chase, I thought it's over. Like gossip, paparazzi, you got a princess killed, it's over. No,
No.
it kept going on. TMZ was born, and it
Yeah.
just keeps going and going. It's never going to stop. Thank God I'm still in this. I'm 63, still talking about gossip. There's no shortage of it. But those two, you're talking two of the most beautiful people in the world in a room for 90 minutes. Of course, people are going to suggest what might have occurred. You have to know more about Rosemary to know why John loved her so much.
Yeah.
She's a tough Italian chick from the Bronx who came from parents who said to her, don't you be nervous about going to meet this guy. You act like you've been there before. And she developed this tough exterior that John loved because
Yeah.
everybody would kiss his ass. And when
Hmm.
you say you're not putting a disguise on, what are you stupid? Oh, you're right. That's a bad idea. Like he needed that. He
Yeah.
needed to hear from regular people. And a chick from the Bronx, you don't get more commonsensical than that. And
Exactly.
but the thing about Ro, which people don't realize, the day he was traveling with Carolyn to the wedding in the plane, they were leaving work, and Rosemary said, my air conditioning's out in my building. He threw the keys to the Tribeca loft and said, stay here, stay on our place for the weekend. Don't worry about it. So she's there. And suddenly she's getting phone calls. What time did John leave? He's not here. They're not here. The plane's not here. And then came the phone calls where people suspected he was gone. They were gone.
Oh.
Barbara Walters, she said, called 5 times trying to get the first interview. Rosemary had to answer these calls. The phone didn't stop ringing in his loft, and she did the best she could. And she said, AJ, you wouldn't believe the people who were such close friends with John in the media, how they couldn't wait to sink their nails into a story like this. And Barbara Walters calling constantly, and there's Ro crying her eyes out because she loved him and Carolyn. And
And she probably had Friday, the dog, but right then.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah,
So she's
yeah.
probably like looking at this basically homeless, abandoned
Could
puppy
you
dog.
imagine? I'm not even sure what happened to that dog. That's a good point. I'm a dog person.
Jackie O's assistant got Friday,
Really?
which I was mortified by because I thought Caroline should want the dog, but I guess she did.
Yeah, I would want the dog if I was Caroline, sure.
I
I'm not a
know.
big I'm not a big fan of hers.
Me
Uh
either. Me, no,
it's
especially when I read about the dog. I was like,
yeah, that bothers me. Like Christy Nome shooting her puppy dog because it
oh
didn't hunt
God.
right. Give me a
Yes.
break. I can't
Yes.
deal with people like that.
No.
But look, I just will say, working in gossip in the 90s and being around these figureheads like a Jackie O, like a John, like Carolyn, I don't think there's ever going to be what is it now? People are chasing Bad Bunny for stories.
Yeah.
It was the best time, but yeah, John and Diana in the same room for 90 minutes is going to cause all sorts of rumors and situations. But he's too classy, and so was she, to
Yeah.
think something went down. I
Yeah.
just don't. I don't buy that. I
I
don't buy
agree. I
that.
totally agree with you. What
Yeah.
is your response to in the book Once Upon a Time?
Mhm.
The author talks about how JFK Jr. was gutted by the death of Diana, and she says that it's actually Carolyn that suggests that JFK Jr. reach out to Prince Harry and Prince William and offer his sympathy or offer any sort of advice. But JFK Jr. chose not to make that call or sit down and write them a letter because he
Hmm.
felt he didn't know the princes personally and believed that their circumstances were too, you know, uh,
I
distinct
understand.
from his own. It was that there are a lot of comparisons to the Diana sons and JFK Jr. just about
Sure.
being thrust in the spotlight, being born into this world.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but it's kind of sweet that Carolyn would think that he might want to do that outreach. Maybe he would have one day.
I don't yeah, I think John was very careful about his image and very careful about what he did. Like I mentioned, uh, he didn't want the shoes. He said, I can't get away with wearing those. There was one other time we talked about, him needing 3 tries to pass the New York bar.
Mm,
And he was saying something, man, the press is, they're going to get after me if I do this and that. I said, John, nobody care. People put their swords back in their belt. You pass the bar. You're a beautiful man. You're scion from the biggest family in America. You're fine. They're not going to hurt you. Just be yourself. But he had a hard time pulling the trigger on that. He
hmm
really did. I'm sure he was himself when it came to going up in the sky with friends or playing football. But John had a shyness about him, and believe it or not, there was something within him that felt like maybe I can't get away with everything.
mm.
And I would tell him, yes, you can. You're John Kennedy. You could do whatever the hell you want. But he didn't like it like that. But that's why he liked Rosemary, who was always on his ass and telling him, don't do this, don't do that. I'm not sure. Like I said, the two of them in a room, you would think they're both so beautiful, like two magnets in a drawer overnight. They're going to end up being together. But I just feel like John had enough on his plate. And speaking as a man, if you got a wife or a girlfriend that's not really terrifically happy about the way the paparazzi, this and that, you can't introduce and he's not introducing some random girl he met.
Yeah.
He's introducing the most recognizable person in the world in Princess Diana. So I think his chivalry uh, kept him from writing too early. Maybe he felt like I don't know that well, and this is not really. But he's wrong. The Kennedy family and Prince that you could do anything if you're the Kennedy family. You don't need
Yeah.
anybody's permission.
Yeah.
But John still
Mhm.
felt that way. You
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, my interpretation of that is that had he reached out to Prince Harry and Prince William, he would have become the story, and that wasn't his objective.
But
Like,
they were kids back. How old were they back then?
yeah,
I
they were
mean,
teenagers, they were little boys, so that would have been, and I totally agree with you.
I wish you would have said to Harry, don't get married to a chick that wants to, anything to tell Harry stay away from Meghan Markle.
Is Yeah.
Oh my
Well, the
God.
perfect segue.
Okay,
Because
good.
Meghan Markle, in my eyes, clearly tries to emulate Carolyn in her wardrobe and in her
Of course.
paparazzi shots, looking unbothered. Except Carolyn loathed, as you've stressed, the paparazzi, and Meghan calls her own to snap
Oh, of
her photos,
course. Of
allegedly.
course.
What do you think of Meghan? Although we have a taste, what's
Oh,
your opinion as a
well, I call her me again, Markle. Um, I find it very irritating. I will admit she's a pretty girl,
yes,
and initially when this happened, if I could be so blunt, I thought it's possible. I've heard rumors that she was a yacht girl and was out there in, Sardinia and St. Bart's with rich men, whatever. But,
allegedly?
yeah, allegedly, just look at a girl's family. How is she with her dad? How is she with her siblings? You get a picture of somebody. And me again, Markle has just wanted to take the fame away. I got out of the family and the royal family. Now we're going to do things my way. She doesn't have the gravitas for that. She never did. That's why Netflix and them are done with their stupid shows. She's a phony, and everybody can see it. And I still think Harry's going to end up on a motorcycle back in England, and he'll visit the kids once in a while in America. But I think he's going to go back and get back to his roots because living the way he is now with this woman, that's a miserable life. Just
It's not,
is.
it doesn't seem like it's very fulfilling at all. And you mentioned this earlier, but Diana operated on a level beyond celebrity. I mean,
Oh
she
yeah.
was so strategic, she was
Hmm.
cautious, and she understood that appearing on the cover of something like George, a political magazine, just as the father of the United States might
Right.
have sent a specific message that she didn't want to
Yeah.
send. Could
Yeah.
Meghan Markle learn a thing or two from Diana's composure or strategy? Like, it's okay to
Oh
say no
yeah.
sometimes.
No, she could have. She could have, but that's not the way she thinks of herself. Meghan Markle thinks of herself as a Princess Diana. The closer you get to that family, and now you're dating the son, you're dating the prince, and you're getting ingratiated into that society. Oh, sure. I mean, it's a power trip. But once she did it and got in and realized, I got to shake this up. It's too stodgy. I got to break. No, that's not what you do.
Well,
You
can
know
you
what I
tell
mean?
me about meeting Princess Diana? What was, I mean, was she as enchanting in real life as she seemed to her fans?
Well, let's put it this way. If she was someone that had a job at the mall selling sunglasses, you'd go back to the mall to see that pretty chick selling sunglasses for sure. She had something. She was very classy. She was very beautiful. And having met thousands of people when I was a columnist, when I shook her hand, there's something about the way she looked at you, the eyes, the stature, the gravitas definitely it definitely brings you down and you realize, well, that I'm this is a star. Like
Mhm.
whatever I thought I was going to write, I got to figure out again because I didn't know I was going to meet this kind of person. And I know because of all the work I've done, when someone knows the playing field and knows how to, keep certain people at bay and get the paparazzi and kill that article, that's a very only not many people can do that, to have that kind of power and still keep your dignity and still look beautiful and not be written about as a crazy person. Diana had all that stuff. She and I was pulling for it.
What do you remember back in the day, the stories that were circulating that Kevin Costner was trying to get Diana to do the bodyguard part two? And
Yes,
what was your
right.
instinct when you were hearing about
Oh,
that?
well, Costner's thinking plainly in dollars and cents. If you can get her to appear in a movie, I'm not sure. Would it have done much better than Whitney Houston? I don't know.
Yeah.
But I mean, casting is everything. Nowadays, they cast movies with people who aren't even actors, but they've got 15 million followers, and that's
Followers.
gonna.
Yeah.
I can't stand that as a guy who's acted in movies. You look and go, and it's all also in getting a book published. Like now, you've got to help the publisher publish the book. How many followers do you have? It's a different world now than it was, even since John's been gone. I'll tell you something. The day that we found out he was dead, I had a girlfriend living with me in Los Angeles. I turn on Fox News and you see the boats in the water, and
Mm.
they got back. They found the plane. John's in it, and I made tickets right away for the two of us to go back to New York and landed at Newark, rented a car, thinking I could get to his apartment in Tribeca. Oh my God, there was at least 5,000 teddy bears and flowers and all sorts of stuff laid out in the street. I had to park a mile away from his apartment and walk. I mean, if you most people don't remember, but this is before 9/11, and that I think the news put this, the Daily News, I believe the front cover was the Statue of Liberty with a black veil over her head
Mm.
when John and Carolyn died. That was really something to me. And now you've got stories or people are trying to say, I was a diver, I saw his body was cut in half by the seatbelt, and
I've seen those.
I don't believe that at all. I
I
just
don't,
think it's sensational. I
and
don't
like
believe
some of
it.
these guys look like they're 21 years
I
old.
know. Like, how old were you? Were you 7 on this routine? Like, how old were you? I
Yeah.
don't buy it. But John was the knock on John from a lot of his friends was he liked reckless abandon. He liked to try things that were dangerous. John loved it, and he just felt like living life every day differently and new. And you
Well, when
know,
you watched your dad be robbed of his life, I imagine that you're thinking, I'm going to milk every ounce of this every day, you know?
exactly. Listen, I'm nowhere near the Kennedy family, but my dad died at 21 when I was 21, that made me want to do everything and make him proud. And
Oh,
people, oh, you must miss your family. Yeah, I miss my dad, but if he hadn't died, I don't think I would have had that impetus and that strength to just not hear the word no and just go crazy and keep getting what I wanted. My mother died 3 years later, so I was equipped with this strength. If they were
urgency.
there, I probably wouldn't have been the same way.
Hmm.
And
Wait, but let me ask you, did your mom get to see any of your success?
my first byline was my father's obituary, put it that
Oh,
way. And
hmm.
then my mother began to see me. I was a sports writer for Newsday on Long Island, and I was telling her, I want to quit. I've never, they ran over me twice, said, don't you quit. You're a writer. I know my son. You write beautifully. It's going to all be fine. And I listened to her, but she was dead by the time I worked for the Daily News in New York City. But they gave me what I needed to have. They
Yeah.
equipped me with, you could do it. Don't listen to anybody. We have faith in you. I wasn't told how to take care of money. What do you do with it? Because we didn't have any. It was just you could do whatever the hell you want. So they did their job as parents, and I've done everything I've ever wanted to do. If I die tomorrow, I go, what didn't you do? I did everything. I met everybody.
You did
I
all
did
the
it.
things. You
I did
did.
all the things. That's one of my favorite. I did all the things. I did the things. I love that statement. It's true. And being friends with John and being around Princess Diana and shaking her hand, and you start to go, this is some heady. I'm writing my third book right now about these relationships. I call it fame adjacent
Yeah.
to the people I hung out with, met, dated. I would never have thought that was going to happen to me as a kid. And I got involved in so many people's lives that I'm writing the book now.
Well, you'll have to come back and talk to me about it
Oh,
when
any time, of course
I'd
I
love
will.
that.
I'm very open. I mean, my goodness, I've always felt like you're not going to get dirt on me. I'll give you the shovel and present the dirt at your feet, and that's what I've done. I tell people all my horrible stories and when I messed up and when I didn't mess up, and people like it because we're all the same. We all kind of bite off more than we can chew. We all feel stupid sometimes, and you know,
Harry and Meghan could learn a lot from that too. If they would stop lying about their success and be
yeah,
like, look, we have, if Meghan Markle
exactly.
said, I have warehouses and warehouses full of inventory,
Wouldn't
we
that be
would,
great?
we
I
would
would
have
love,
much more
yeah.
respect for her.
I would love hearing that. You got to be honest because the days of lying and people thinking, oh, you're telling the truth, they're over. People are so good at spotting a lie, and they're happy if you say, you know what, I did something. I was so embarrassed. This is the worst story. When you get mixed up in the hoi polloi of Hollywood and fancy people, they just look down on it.
The Oprahs, the Tyler
Oh yeah,
Perrys, they're
yeah.
playing that game. They're playing a very and with people that are not very edifying. Like if you really want to get
Yeah.
down to the nitty gritty of it,
Yeah,
there's
you shouldn't do that. I'm reading an article today. One of the actors from Breaking Bad is now working. I don't know. He's working in some supermarket. He's an actor between jobs.
yeah.
The guy that worked on the Cosby Show, I forget his name. He was on the Bill Cosby Show. They found him bagging groceries at Trader Joe's. The
Hmm.
media descended upon him. Like, just we all have to live.
Yeah.
We can have more than one talent. I could be an actor, but need to work and keep the bills paid and keep my kids fed. And I hate that about the world. And I think that's an example of the new journalism that's come out. It's not what they don't have feelings. I would kill so many stories before I wrote them because I thought, I don't want people to know about this situation in his life. It's not worth the story. And you
Right.
just kill it. Like I remember I was behind the Nicole Brown Simpson's mother and father at a play,
Hmm.
at a play in New York City. And the guy who gave us the tickets purposely said, I got you right behind Nicole's parents. You could ask them during the show. And I looked at my editor, Linda Stacy, and I said, I don't want to talk to these people. I don't want to. This is horrible. She
Yeah.
goes, good, don't.
Oh,
This is horrible.
yeah.
Yeah, I didn't
Yeah.
do it, but that's gone from journalism today.
Hmm.
It's a lot of guesswork. A lot of people feel like they know better. But of course, John and Diana in a room for 90 minutes, your mind runs wild. John was too classy, and so was Diana. No, I don't believe anything ever happened except, you know,
A nice
beautiful women.
friendly meet. They actually,
Hot
I think,
guy.
I think it was Berman that said they talked about meeting Mother Teresa. So it was like the
Yeah,
opposite of
right.
anything salacious.
Right. It was a Mother Teresa thing. Yeah, they got, yeah, it's really weird when you got two ultra famous people in the same room. It's not even something you'd feel comfortable watching because they lived in such a different world.
Hmm.
But they were great people.
Wait,
Diana
also,
was a
I
super,
think I just remembered this, and I wish I would have grabbed the details before we started talking, but didn't Fergie pursue him like with a vengeance?
Fergie did, and Diana didn't like Fergie, so she would do all she could to dissuade her. But by the way, her meeting John had to piss off Fergie because Fergie wanted to be an actress, and I don't know, that whole Fergie thing is so insane. I don't know where she thinks it is, but she's still talking about stuff. I mean,
Yes.
those two people, John and Diana, it'll never happen again. The press will never care as much. I don't care what two names you give me because there was so much untapped potential and such unfinished lives for both of them to die in such peculiar circumstances. We all feel that we got cheated, and that's why they'll always be famous in our heads, and the stories will always, always go
Hmm.
because of who they were. Yeah, that's just the way it goes,
It's
you know.
true. Well, thank you for spending the afternoon with me, and you have this fascinating
My
history and
pleasure.
so many fun stories. And I feel like I know John Jr. a little bit better now. I like him.
I hope so. Yeah, he was
Yeah.
great. Great dude.
Well, agree with us, disagree with us. Let us know in the comments below. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share this video with a friend. Thanks so much for watching, everyone.